Welcome to the Music for the Soul podcast, where we talk honestly about difficult things. This is a place where music, hope, and healing come together. I'm Becky Nordquist.
And I'm Steve Seiler. Today we're delighted to have joining us again Scott Krippayne. Scott is a singer, songwriter, musician, and so much more. And today we're going to talk quite a bit about Scott's involvement with the Ministry of Music for the Soul. So I have to say right off the bat that one of the things that I love about Scott is his generous heart and the way he pours himself out into every song he sings, everything he performs. And he's done that for Music for the Soul so many times. So I'll say welcome, Scott, and then I'll embarrass you further.
Thank you for the incredible intro. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you back.
First off, anybody who listens to our podcast knows that I love lists. So I'm going to give you a little quiz and then I'll give you the list with the correct answers. How many songs do you think you have sung on for Music for the Soul?
32.
Not bad. 36. Lead vocal on 33. So that's a very impressive guess.
That was impressive. How many points does he get for getting them right?
None.
None.
I didn't get it right.
Points here.
0.
I was thinking points. I mean, we should have like a game show. We should have inserted some game show music there.
Which is when I love to say, anybody says game show, and I say, Wink Martindale.
Oh, there's a name I have not heard in a really long time.
I was a music supervisor on a Wink Martindale game show, and I loved the way the announcer did his name. And one time when the announcer did that, I looked at Wink and he looked at me and we shared this moment of like, can you believe that? It's really funny.
I am
really
so
funny.
impressed right now.
Oh gosh, I'm name dropping again. Okay. But I have Scott Krippayne here, so I don't have to name drop any further than that.
Right?
Not many people have the sentence that they can say, I looked at Wink and we shared a moment. So
there's that.
So continuing the quiz, how many songs do you think you've written for Music for the Soul?
15?
41.
Oh,
so you're
really off on that one.
Little off.
Way lost points on that.
Okay.
41. Oh
yep.
my goodness.
He has also sung at 12 live events for Music for the Soul in 8 different states. And to date, you have done our one and only live Facebook concert. So how's that for an impressive list?
Yeah, I feel fortunate to, be friends with y'all and get to be a part of Music for the Soul. I believe in what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Well, I know I have a favorite of one of those live events because one of them was with me and Steve. Steve was there too, but
I love being an afterthought. Thanks.
Really, today the only one that matters is SK. So there's that.
We got to do stuff together. It was wonderful.
It was it was great. It was fun. And it was kind of a bucket list thing. Part of me had to pinch myself and somebody got this photo of us and the look on my face is like, I really can't believe this is happening. I'm still such a dork fan.
Well, when we wrote the first song for Music for the Soul, it actually came about a mutual dear friend of ours, Marty Wheeler. His wife had been diagnosed with breast cancer in the 7th month of her first pregnancy. And I had written a song called More Beautiful. And when I thought, who can I get to sing this? I didn't think very long or very hard about that because I knew I was going to call you, Scott. And you sang an amazing vocal on that.
Thank you.
I'm going to play a little bit of that now just to let people hear what you gave us.
Now I stand helpless and watch you in pain. I wish I could fix this, make it all go away. But here is the one thing that you must believe. No one has ever been more beautiful to me.
A month later, I was asked to write a song for families separated by the first Iraqi deployment. And you and Tony and I were in a prayer group together. So it made sense for me to come to you and say, hey, guys, would you consider writing this with me? And we wound up going to Tony's office. And after we wrote it, there was a recording studio right down the hall. So we went down the hall and Scott jumped on a little electric piano and sang a piano vocal. And thanks to Chris Lemke, one of our dear friends from Grand Rapids radio guy, he played it for some other radio people and it got picked up. And the next thing we knew, it was actually in rotation on some radio stations in Seattle, Orlando, across the country. And Scott, you were still a recording artist at the time and had had a single out. And there was some confusion, radio stations calling and saying, which one of these is the single?
that happens on occasion.
Well, it was so interesting because as a nonprofit, I didn't even think about how are we going to put this out. I just called Chris because he was like a radio guy that I knew and said, hey, we did this thing. Would you listen to it? And he didn't even ask me if he should put it out. I mean, the next thing I knew, it was being played. And I think that's one of the neat things about being a nonprofit is because I knew that if I called your label and, went through the legal steps and tried to do a real recording, it would just never happen. So what they were playing on the radio was your piano vocal demo.
Well, and sometimes a song just connects and it's less about a great production or what it is. And like you said, sometimes there's a lot of red tape for trying to get something out there. And if we have an opportunity that we're like, oh, I could send this to so-and-so. So yeah, I'm super glad that it, took on the life that it did when it did.
And I'm going to play a little bit of that.
We can find the strength to carry on. We have love enough to bridge the distance. And love will see us through till I can be with you. Until then, we're not alone. 'Cause I'm sending out a prayer for you.
It was really gratifying to hear from the spouses of service people because the nature of the song was written for those who were separated by the deployment. It wasn't pro or con anything. It was just, you're far away, I miss you, I love you, from both perspectives. And to hear from the spouses of people who had loved ones overseas and how it spoke for them and spoke to them was deeply gratifying.
I have to say, it's one thing that I am constantly amazed and learning from as I get time with you guys is just how you all have the ability to capture what someone else is going through that maybe you've never experienced personally. And it's a great song. And there's so many that the three of you, when I say the three of you, I mean the GBT.
Mm-hmm. The Golden Boy Trio.
The Golden Boy Trio. I think that was in our last episode with you, Scott. I had to pull that one out. Come on, you can't blame me. But, when I think of you and Steve and Tony, you all are so deeply gifted to do that I think people are often amazed that some of these things are not part of your story or part of what you've personally experienced, but you do so beautifully at communicating what other people are walking through musically. It's just really touching. So thanks for sharing that, guys. And thanks for writing that.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I think we don't always go through things, but oftentimes we have something in our own personal life we can relate to a similar story, or we have a friend who's going through it, so there are places we can draw from, even if it's not something that's been personal.
Yes.
I love that.
Perfect segue, Becky, though, because the next song I want to talk about is one that did come from personal experience. When my wife was pregnant with our second child, we found out at the ultrasound that our baby had spina bifida. And so, at being a songwriter, the next day I did what songwriters do to process stuff. And I went to a writer's room at Star Song and I shut the door, sat there with the piano, and I wrote a song called Whole, WHOLE, Whole in the Sight of God. And it was my way of processing the fact that the Lord was not sending us a body, He was sending us a soul. And so I wrote that song. And again, when it was time to record it, I couldn't think of anybody that would bring their heart and their passion to it more than Scott. And I'm going to tell you here a little bit, Scott. We're in the studio with Kent, and we're recording Kent Hooper, our engineer, and we're recording the song. And we get to the third verse of the song, and about 2 or 3 lines in, Scott, I can hear it. He's about to break down. Can you describe that moment, Scott?
Well, I still break down every time I listen to the song. I mean, now I get to be fangirl, and I mean, which is weird to say on that song, but that song, even though that is not my story in a sense, there is still, it touches my heart in a way, partly because Steve, I love you and you're my friend. And partly because it just, I don't know why it resonates in the way that it does, but yeah, I probably was crying quite a bit before you heard it in that session. But I know there were moments I remember it took quite a while to get through that thing. But I'm glad too. I mean, I think you're trying to stay present. You want a song to be real, and cutting a vocal, you're trying to give not a fake emotional performance. So you're trying to live in that spot without going to the tears, but sometimes it happens. And I'm more and more comfortable with allowing that to happen now and just going, yeah, we can get another take, or maybe that's the take that you use part of it.
Well, that verse that you were singing was about someone who is deaf. And I remember you saying afterwards that it just overwhelmed you because you love music so much in that moment that you were singing about someone who would not be able to hear and have the blessing of music. And you did, you weren't able to get through the verse, but on the recording, I kept the line just before you lost it. And I kept the line just after you pulled it back together. So although people won't hear the actual blubbering part on the recording, they will hear the emotion. They will hear that being birthed in you. So I'm going to play that verse right now.
Katie lives deep in silence where music never plays, finding her songs in the joys of each new day. Without notes, she's creating a new symphony, 'cause her gentle, sweet soul is its own melody. She is whole in the sight of God, whole in the sight of God. She can hear all things through the words of the Spirit. She is whole.
And again, I just have to thank you, Scott, for that vocal. That obviously is my own personal story that still speaks so powerfully to me today. So appreciate you doing that one for us.
Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of that, because that's still one that I will go back to. There are things we are allowed to do in this life, and that's one that feels important. And so I'm grateful it's like I feel the emotion even now.
I love how you both have not just walked through so much songwriting together, but you've really walked together through life, a lot of life together. And I don't think we've mentioned it in the last podcast. I know we haven't mentioned it in this, but how long have you known each other?
30 years. Well, this is year 30, so let's just call it 30 years.
Yeah, only 29. Only 29, really. Don't age us.
Yeah, we won't go there too long because I have a big birthday this year, so let's not talk about age. But
she's going to be 4 years old.
Hey. I love that, because don't you find that it's few the friendships that you have where you can say you've walked miles with, and decades of life and life changes, and certainly that plays through in the writing that you share, both of you. So that song, Hole in the Sight of God, it just gets me every time. It's beautiful. I know it's ministered to so many people on so many different levels too. So thanks both of you for sharing your hearts.
Thank you, Becky, for saying that. And Philip Kevin did the string arrangement on that. And just to show one of the ways that God works in our ministry, I did not know when I asked Philip to write the string arrangement that his brother had died from spina bifida.
Oh my goodness.
And that he had issues of guilt around the fact that he had resented his brother and all the trips that his mom took to the hospital to be with his brother when he was young. And after he wrote that string arrangement, he went to his mom and talked with her about that. And there was forgiveness and grace all around that for them as a family. And that's when I think, okay, I'm not that good. That's God doing work, even as we're creating. God is not only concerned with the people who will ultimately hear the song, but even with the people who are helping create it and the blessings and the healing that need to take place in their lives as well. So I was astounded when I heard that.
And time after time, I've noticed with the projects that we've talked about on the podcast, as well as just privately, that is a theme, it seems. It's
Yeah.
just, from book covers to, all
Yep.
sorts of things where you just there's no way human hands could plan it, right? God just, whatever you're laying before him, he's like, yeah, I got this. I really do have this. And it's not just about one person, it's about all of these people from different varying experiences and life. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. And of course, who else are you going to get on strings but Philip? I mean, come on.
For sure. Well, I want to tell a story about one time. I can't think of this night without just being so grateful to Scott. We have a wonderful supporter named Charlene Miller who has supported the ministry for years. And we had written a song together, Scott and I, for her called Treasures of the Heart. She was having a party and Scott was supposed to come and sing the song. And you were sick, Scott. And to say that you had no voice is an understatement. You were you had full on laryngitis and you came and sang anyway, transposing the song on the spot. Like, I don't even know how you did it. And you got through it. Do you remember that experience?
Oh, I do. I mean, well, because that taps on one of those things. Like I was there to sing one song and to go, this is going to be such a struggle. And to wrestle with, I'm letting down my friend. I'm letting down the supporter that, those voices come up. But I'm also hearing the thing of like, but God can use anything. So
Yes.
kind of trying to hold both of those things and go, okay, let me play this in a different key and rasp my way through whatever version it was. And I don't really remember how it sounded, but I'm sure it wasn't wonderful, but hopefully there was emotion and hopefully it connected in some way, and so my job now isn't to go back and go, what it could have sounded like if I had a voice,
Right.
because we just talked about the different stories about how God can use anything.
Yes.
And he really can. And he'll take any opportunity of brokenness there's nothing he can't use. I've seen that time and time again in my life. So trying to trust that even looking back on that night going, there may be things that happened in ways that God worked that had nothing to do with the song, or maybe it did have to do with the song that happened that night that we may never know.
I think sometimes too, I mean, see if you agree with this, but sometimes I think people are really hungry for authenticity. And, certainly sickness is something that happens to all of us, but I'm constantly amazed at how if I step back and I get into self and I start critiquing how well I did or didn't do something, that's where God steps in. He's like, it doesn't matter if you have anything to bring here because it's not about you. And, he'll take your worst performance and he'll do amazing things.
Well,
Amen to that.
Scott, I got to tell a funny story that in the last podcast that you were on with us, you referred to the American Idol Song Contest. And I don't know if I've ever even told you this, but the following year, of course, Reggie Ham, a mutual friend of ours, won the song contest. And I heard and I know you guys heard this as well, but is there some sort of conspiracy, right? These are both CCM writers. But I even had somebody accuse Music for the Soul of being involved in rigging the contest because we were affiliated with both of you. And I thought, if I only had the power they think I have.
Well, that pulls it all together. Apparently it was Music for the Soul that rigged it. So
I'll take the blame if it means we get more publicity.
Well, now I'm thinking I should enter.
There you go.
No,
Shoe into
they
win.
did it. They did it for 2 years, and I think after working with songwriters for 2 years, they're like, "We're out. We don't want to work with these people anymore.
Not those people.
Those
people.
songwriters are crazy people."
All right. Well, let's take a little detour and talk about something that you did with Reggie Ham that had nothing to do with Music for the Soul. It was not a conspiracy, but it was called 24-Hour Conspiracy, so it was a different kind of conspiracy, right?
Yeah, we because of the talk around the American Idol stuff, and there was so many, people commenting on blogs like, "Oh, did they know? Did they know somebody? This is all a conspiracy? No one really had a shot." We thought we'd play on that, and I remember Reggie and I getting together to write a song, and we had both of our schedules shrunk. I was flying out that day, and we had a couple hours, and it turned into like an hour. Let's get together anyway. So we chatted for 15 minutes, wrote a song in 45 minutes, and we're like, we did a song in an hour. We could do think of what we could do in a day, and just kind of left it there. And then at some point, I think I was reading a Bob Goff book. I think it was Love Does, and just got this idea of man, it'd be fun to do something crazy, and thought of that story with Reggie. And so we talked about it and was like, "Hey, do you want to get together and write 10 songs in a day? That'd be kind of a fun thing to do." And he's like, "Yeah, but we need to write them and record them in a 24-hour thing." And I was like, "That's not possible." And then we set out to do it anyway. So to write and record 10 songs from scratch in a 24-hour period of time, it was nuts, but it was accomplished.
That sounds like Reggie, to up the ante.
Yeah, it does.
Was that really the reason why they stopped doing the American Idol song thing? No, I'm just kidding. It was because of you too.
I can say it was not a conspiracy. There was no conspiracy. It's, in the songwriting world, people know each other. It is, you don't have to be that many connections apart from, you're
It's a pretty tight
degrees
community.
from a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, as most of our listeners know, one of our, I don't want to say most popular, most well-known projects is Somebody's Daughter, A Journey to Freedom from Pornography. And when we worked on that, you were gracious enough to allow us to include the title track from your CD, All of Me, as one of the songs on the project. I still remember you and Kent Hooper had done the track, and you sent it to me and said, do you have any lyric ideas? And I'm going to tell a story on myself right now. I was sitting and watching TV late one night, and I had the remote in my hand. I'm just flipping channels and don't really have any idea of what I'm going to watch. And I landed on something that I didn't need to see or shouldn't have been watching. And I lingered just a second, maybe 5 seconds. And I changed the channel and I threw the remote down, and I was furious at myself. And I went downstairs and I wrote the lyric to All of Me in a 10-minute fury as a convicting moment for myself. And I called you and I said, I don't know if you'll be willing to include this on your record or not, because you sent me this track, but here's what I wrote. What do you think?
Yeah. And because of its honesty, because I can relate to it, because I've been in similar situations at similar times, that I go, yeah, I felt like I can deliver this. And you go, I don't know if people will get it. I don't know if people will be what they're going to take, but I felt like this is a message that was a message that I wanted to share. And I'm so glad that we did. I'm glad that we put it out on that record. I'm glad that you've included it, in projects after that.
And I remember you sharing a letter with me that you got from a teenage boy about how that song had empowered him and meant so much to him because he was struggling. So I love when God pulls the curtain back and shows us how song is touching somebody. Shortly after that, you came to Orlando when we did the Somebody's Daughter Into the Light concert to debut the album. You came and performed the song there live. I still remember John Cosart after the concert going to pay you and you waving him off and saying, no, I don't need to be paid for this. So, I always refer to your generous spirit, and that's just another example that you would come and bless and be a part of that event and then refuse to be paid for it, even though you were 3,000 miles from home. Pretty impressive, Scott. Well, so when it was time to do a project on the topic of grief, I decided that we needed to approach it differently. And I asked my prayer group buddies if we could go on a retreat. I mentioned our supporter, Charlene Miller, earlier, and she has a beautiful home in Rock Island, Tennessee. And she offered that to us as a place for you and Tony and I to go and spend time working on a grief project. And I remember we wrote 11 songs on that retreat, and there were a lot of tears. We'd all had grief experiences. And I remember telling my wife, yeah, we got together and we cried and prayed and wrote these songs. And she said, most guys go out into the woods for a retreat and they grunt and they scratch and they holler at the moon. You guys get together and cry. What's the matter with you guys?
We are a different breed, I guess, but I'm comfortable in that breed.
Well, you wrote and sang on some more projects for us, on the Dignity Project for Caregivers. And I had a trip out to Seattle, and you co-wrote with me for our Mercy Great Enough project for those who have remorse over an abortion decision in their past. And your song on that project was really important because it came from the male perspective. I had a counselor tell me, when he met with guys, the one issue where they could never look him in the eye when they confessed was if they had been part of an abortion decision. And so you and I wrote a song about that, and you were, again, kind enough to lend your vocal to it. I want to play just a snippet of that.
A man protects, a man provides, a man stands tall and does what's right. That's why I feel this guilt inside. I can't seem to look you in the eye. You needed me, our child did too, and it's painful to admit the truth. I wasn't there for you. I wasn't there for you.
So that's another one of the songs where I don't think that was a personal thing for either of us, but certainly there are things in life we can relate to, sins that we think are unforgivable. This is the one thing God could never forgive. Everybody has something like that in their lives, don't they, Scott?
Absolutely. I mean, we've got those dark corners that we don't like to either look at or talk about, and it is helpful to shed light in there, but it's hard, and people will do that in the time and when they feel capable, able, but we do have this incredible God who says, "I love you no matter what," and yeah, so in a song like this, we're while that's not a personal experience for me, I can go to places where I can relate to what it feels like and have friends who have been in similar spots. So again, places to draw from to try to find that emotion that will communicate.
Well, thank you so much for lending your vocal to that. And again, as we travel the country and hear stories from all over, especially on this particular topic, realizing that we're sitting next to people in our churches that it is their story and the shame and the pain that they carry, and they feel like they have to do it silently. Sadly, many churches are not healthy in the fact that they aren't really a hospital. And so people are afraid to talk honestly about what they've been through out of fear and out of shame and guilt. And certainly this project is dear to my heart just because I know that so many people have been touched by it, but also the healing that's come through the project for those who were in hiding for a long time. So really grateful for you both and for the production of Mercy Great Enough. It's having great impact even in my own little circle here in West Michigan, and I know people are really grateful for it.
Well, I know our listeners are anxious to get to the part where we talk about Paw Patrol, but I just want to focus one more time on something that you sang for Music for the Soul. We did a second retreat And this time, I don't know whose idea it was, but it was a good one for Scott, you to host Tony and I in your neck of the woods. And so we rented a cottage on Vashon Island. We had a little peekaboo view of Mount Rainier and of the ocean. And we wrote several songs in a couple of days, which became our Music for the Soul project, Life of Faith. And one of my favorite songs in the catalog was written on that trip. And you sang it, so I want to play just a little bit of that for people.
When my soul bleeds and my faith is weak, I can't bear the agony. In the middle of the nightmare, I'm still not alone. So I pray in all things, even in the worst life brings, deep in pain, on my knees, Jesus, you are here with me in all things.
Okay, so in all things, I mean, that just for me, that says it. It's that reminder: up, down, sideways, pain, joy, in all things. In all things, nothing can separate us from the love of God.
I love that song. It's one of my favorites as well.
I'll lend a third to that because it's honestly probably one of my favorite moments when we were all together in Grand Rapids. That song is just, I don't know, it's like this nice blanket that covers you and embraces you in the middle of the hard of life. And, you know, because life is hard. It's hard here. And to know that there's nothing we can do that will take away his love. There's no way we could lose his love. It's so beautiful. I just love that song. I could listen to it all day. So I would love for you to tell us about some of your other post CCM solo artist projects.
Wow. I mean, I do have a personal I've done different things and lended my voice to different things, but I have a personal project called Pain, but it's Paehne. It is a little different. It's not for everyone, but it was born out of some counseling work that I'd been a part of and doing therapy for a number of years and finding that it was a helpful place, which writing has always been, to go and process things. And so, so I release things periodically under that name, with the 12 monthly listeners I get on Spotify or whatever that, huge number is, but it's good for my soul. It's good for my heart to be able to put things out and that way. And like I said, I'll still release things under Scott Krippayne, under my name, but that's just a little different side project that I always love being able to share things. I have a few songs that are almost done that hopefully I'll get released sometime this year.
Well, I'm actually a fan of that project that you mentioned. And I have a couple of those songs on my house cleaning playlist.
Let's go.
Trying to figure which one. I was just trying to decide which one was my favorite, but I don't know if I can put my finger on it. But I love that. It shows a side that I'd not heard of you before, heard from you before, having listened to you on CCM and obviously now some of the Music for the Soul projects. But yeah, I love it. But I have to say my all-time favorite is certainly the Paw Patrol project. So, and you have a few others out there, don't you?
Yeah, with the kid space has been a fun place to dive into over the last decade, where we got to write on the Paw Patrol theme, got to write probably 100 songs or so for a show called Blazing the Monster Machines, monster trucks doing math and science for kids. So that's a fun show to work on.
That is one of our favorites. And
only 100. Only 100 though.
100 so far, Steve. Just 100 so far.
Well, good.
Not done yet. Oh, but wait, there's more. I have to say thank you for making kids shows a little more palatable.
I was actually at my my daughter's house last week, I think it was, and I was it was like 5:30 in the morning. My grandson is already up and he's got the TV on. He's watching some underwater Grand Prix thing. And in my stupor, in my fog, holding my coffee, I'm going, that's Scott Krippayne. That's a Scott Krippayne song. And sure enough, in the credits there, it is like, nailed it.
But you've done some other things on TV, right?
Yeah, I did all sorts of stuff. Where either they've used my vocal on something or have written and landed a placement here or there. So I do the piano vocal hymns project about a decade ago, and got a call from a show. I think it was called The Good Fight on Paramount Plus, and they were like, "Hey, can we use 3 of your hymns in these next 2 episodes?" I'm like, "Sure." So, and I have no idea who heard it or who, but it was for a scene in a jail, and they'd wanted to use a couple of those songs. So yeah, you never know where something will end up or how God might use it. And so it's fun to see some of these songs take on new lives.
Tell us about the Pep and Perk project.
Pep and Perk is also in the kids space, and the guy named Michael Smitty Smith, not Michael W. Smith Smitty, but a different Michael Smith that lives in California. He and I do a lot of the kids stuff together. So we've started kind of a brand of kids songs called Pep and Perk, PEP and PERK, and are releasing songs that hopefully will be fun for kids and helpful for parents, and are just kind of releasing them 3 or 4 at a time. And we just released a EP of affirmations for kids that feel great that we did. It was some of the hardest songs I've ever written because we're writing them for kids, but I'm realizing I need to hear these every day too. Just things: I am lovable, I am special and important, I can do hard things, we get to be ourselves. And so these messages that, we believe are great for kids to embody, but also really great for people at any age. So that's been a fun thing to work on, and hope we get to do it for a while.
You're reminding me of when I did the Kids Tunes project for Tyndale House, and I had to write 165 Bible songs. And
only 165?
Yeah, ran out of steam. Sorry. No, I always say if there's a scripture that is appropriate for kids, or even one that's probably not, we wrote it. But what I discovered was kind of what you're talking about in distilling some of the scripture. When it got right down to it, it was like, okay, this was written for kids, but this is a message every adult needs to have in their own life. So I'm not surprised that you're finding that these Pep and Perk songs are speaking to you about the values and the things that you want to live out. Not surprising at all.
Absolutely.
Totally going on our School Tunes Drive playlist for sure. So
let's go.
Let's talk about that sounded almost like Paw Patrol. Let's go.
Paw Patrol, it's on a roll.
It is.
No job is too big, no pup is too small.
That's right, Paw Patrol. Here we go. Okay, sorry. So even more importantly, you have lent your giftings to some commercials that we are familiar with. Yeah.
Yes, I 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, just again, it's the different relationships that get opened up. And so it was a friend that we knew through the Paw Patrol world who worked at Nickelodeon. Her husband needed a male vocalist to sing on a spot for Progressive Insurance, and so they called me up and took a shot at that. I got to be a part of a boy band for Progressive 5 or 6 years ago, and that
your dream come true.
I know. I never even knew I had the dream, and then I get to live it. And that's turned into a new relationship where I get calls occasionally to help lend my voice to something for Progressive, or did a Skippy peanut butter commercial. Peanut butter will kill me. I am deathly allergic to it. So it was fun to get to sing for, Skippy. And
I was going to say that's an odd choice for Scott Krippayne right there.
Yeah. How did you get? How did that whole start? You're talking about connections and stuff, but how did you get your start into TV music? That's quite the segue.
Well, I mean, it really is. The music world is based on relationships. I mean, many worlds are, and I really believe that's why we're here on this planet, is for relationships and for community. Otherwise, we could all be on our own little individual islands. So it's been, at my age, at 52 years old now, to be able to look back, just see how the dots connect in ways that I would have never dreamed for them to. So, even the foray into the kids world was from a guy who was my publisher, who I met at a conference in Hawaii, who reintroduced me to somebody that I knew in Los Angeles, who said, "You should write with my writer." I was like, "I know that guy. We've talked about writing for 6 years, but have never written." It's those sorts of stories all over the place. And so it's kooky how doors open up, and yet it's not kooky if I have this belief in a God that can connect dots really from anywhere.
Jesus knows everybody, right, Steve?
Absolutely. Amen to
Yes.
that.
And that even led to an Emmy, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally forgot about that. What do you know?
Oh,
That
just
was
slipped your mind.
no, but it's the place of, sometimes it does. That's not the goal when we set out to write a song. You're just trying to serve the song. How do we write the best song that we can for the moment that we're in, or if it's for a show, how do we serve the show? So we did have the opportunity to be a part of a show on Netflix called We the People, which was kind of a reboot on teaching civics to young people. I got to be a part of a song called American Citizen that BB Rexa sang on. And lo and behold, that show was nominated for an Emmy, Kids and Family Emmy Award. And so we've now got a heavy little statue that sits in the dining room.
And there's this
Kind of
part.
fun.
Serve the song, serve the listener. That's your heart. It's beautiful. So, do you have a mission statement for your life?
I have a theme and a why that I kind of keep in front of me. And so my why is because making music and being creative is living in the deep waters of life. And it's healing for me, and hopefully it will be healing for others.
Well, I can affirm that it has been healing for others multiple times just in the stories that I know about. So thank you for honoring that why.
Yes.
That's a neat way to put it. What is your why?
Yeah, I mean, what the whys and purpose seems to be a big thing. What's our purpose? And so, and that can evolve over time. I'm also looking to insert more play, where we said sometimes living in those deep waters can get heavy, and it can. So the importance of play, the importance of just laughter and stuff. Yeah, we try to insert that too. But being creative, I know, is something that it needs to find its way out in me. Those are gifts that I believe that I have inside, and trying to find ways to exercise those.
Yeah, when you talk about play and humor, people will often ask me how do I stay in the dark, deep issues that Music for the Soul works on all the time. And the truth is, I don't stay there. When I'm not doing that work, I'm an absolute goofball. And that's the only way, right? You have to be able to go off and go, ah!
Yes, absolutely.
And also I married a professional comedy writer. So there's a lot of laughter in our house, and she's great at relieving that tension. So play and humor, man, extremely, extremely important. Well, Scott, can you tell people what you're working on right now? Anything new and exciting coming down the pike?
A little bit of a few things. We are currently working on some new Pep and Perk music, so new kid songs for that. In the process of a couple Blaze and the Monster Machine songs, trying to find time for my personal project. So there's a couple, like I said, there are 3 songs that are almost done. Want to get those in and done, and working on a vocal for a commercial that I can't talk about yet, but hopefully I'll be able to talk about it someday.
Coming to a TV set near you.
There you go. Also, Steve, you know this, but we did have a chance to get back together, yourself, myself, and Tony Wood, to work on some songs recently dealing with anxiety and trying to offer help and hope and healing for those, which I really believe is everybody who is contending with anxiety at some level. And so that was a joy to be a part of in the writing process, and we'll be, I'm sure, working on that at some level moving forward.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
So, what is a great way for people to get in touch with you? Do you want people to get in touch with you? Well,
I like people, and they certainly are welcome to get in touch. Probably the easiest way. I mean, I think I'm on the socials. I don't spend a lot of time on the socials, but I do have a website, scottkrippayne.com, and there's a contact page. So if somebody wants to reach out, that email from the contact page goes directly to me. So if there's a story that somebody wants to share, if they've got a question, they are welcome to reach out there. And Pep and Perk is pepandperk.com, and you can probably email us from there too.
awesome. So good. Looking forward to hearing what's coming down the pipe for you. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode with Scott Krippayne, please share it with a friend and give us a positive review on iTunes.
Yes, and please visit our website, musicforthesoul.org, where you can stream or download every song in our catalog, including everything you've heard on the episode today. Read our lyrics, our healing music guides, our blog posts, and much more. Scott, thank you so much for being with us. And everybody, since Scott mentioned our anxiety project that we're working on, I'm going to play a little snippet of a demo as we head out today. Thank you all for listening. God bless.
You say, be anxious for nothing, but inside I'm still tied up in knots. You say, you carry my burdens, but it's hard to let go of the worries I've got. I believe that you care for the birds in the air and the colorful flowers that bloom. Lord, will you help my heart and my mind to trust that you truly care for me too? You say you see me and know me and ache when I'm breaking apart. You say that you'll never leave me, but sometimes believing that's true has been hard. I believe that you care for the birds in the air and the colorful flowers that bloom. Lord, will you help my heart and my mind to trust that you truly care for me too? Lord, will you help my heart and my mind to trust that you truly care for me too? 'Cause you say you do.